Yeah, this is me sounding better.
This is Mac OS Ken.
iPhone step cycles versus super cycles. South China Morning Post does what it was bound to do. And a decent amount of OS news. It is Monday, the 23rd of September, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management, your solution for MDM and identity and access management. Learn more at 1password.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Waits have lengthened for the iPhone 16 line, a sight pleasing in the eyes of JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee. Apple 3.0 posted a note he wrote on Sunday. On Sunday? Apple 3.0 posted a note he wrote on Sunday, which had the firm tracking an average increase of 5 days across the iPhone 16 lineup versus a check-in last week, with strength in iPhone 16 Plus surprising to the upside. Comparing and contrasting, the Plus is the only model with a longer wait time this year than for the iPhone 15 last year. As we discussed last week, though, there is really no telling why the waits are what they are. As Apple 3.0's Philip Elmer DeWitt put it, lead times mean only so much when supply levels are unknown. Whatever the case, the Chatterbox is not worried, though he does think Week 3 and Week 4 wait times will be more telling. Mr. Chatterjee has an overweight rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $265. Trying to get back into the swing of things, I took my sniffling, sneezing self to Apple's site for an informal survey of wait times for Apple's latest phones. For iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus, I could have ordered Sunday night and had free delivery between the 3rd of October and the 8th. If I'd been willing to pay an extra $9, I could have had it delivered today, Monday, the 23rd of September. Could also just go and pick one up, at least if I wanted the 128 or 256 gigabyte models at any store around me, up to about 30 miles away. That said, inventory got spotty when I went up to the 512 gigabyte on either the iPhone 16 or iPhone 16 Plus. Sunday night, iPhone 16 Pro showed delivery between the 8th of October and the 15th, though it did show I could order and pick one up at a couple of stores today if I was willing to drive 35 miles. For iPhone 16 Pro Max, deliveries for orders made Sunday evening were slated for the 15th of October through the 22nd, though switching up colors and capacities meant I could order and pick up one of the phones at some area stores, though not all, today. All of that said, I live near a few major metros. If you do too and simply want something new today, seems like you could probably get it, though your literal mileage may vary. I only gave you part of the Philip Elmer DeWitt quote a minute ago. The first part, lead times mean only so much when supply levels are unknown, was followed by him saying, but this looks more like a step cycle than an immediate super cycle. I think he got step cycle from Counterpoint Research. The market tracker posted a post on Friday calling for a step cycle rather than a super cycle for Apple's latest iPhone line. The way the firm sees it, there have been 2 super cycles for iPhone so far, the one prompted by the larger screened iPhone 6 line, and the other for the iPhone 12 and iPhone 13, prompted by the combo of COVID and 5G for iPhone. Both addressed pent-up demand in the firm's estimation, something iPhone 16 does not do. The way Counterpoint sees it, most of the use cases offered through Apple Intelligence or even other OEMs are generally nice to have, but not something so compelling as to get a large section of users to upgrade their devices earlier than expected. They also do not see any pent-up demand like in the previous supercycles for generative AI features among consumers, at least in the near term. The launch of Apple Intelligence in terms of both features and regions is also expected to be staggered, hence its full impact is likely to be seen over time rather than in a single push. In other words, a hardware step cycle rather than a supercycle. I stress hardware there because they still expect the supercycle in services revenue. According to the firm, this step cycle will also help in driving a supercycle in services revenue by creating a flywheel effect for the entire Apple business. We expect Apple services revenue to cross the $100 billion mark to account for 1/4 of its revenue by 2025. If you think I think I'm smart because I saw what South China Morning Post was going to do, it's not that. It's just they were so freaking predictable and so freaking obvious about it. A few weeks ago, I told you of a long editorial the site ran that said iPhone's fortunes were waning in China. But the piece argued iPhone 16 presented a fresh opportunity for iPhone in the Middle Kingdom, provided Apple Intelligence performed well there. I argued then that this seemed to be setting iPhone 16 up for failure, at least in the microcosm that was the paper, since we knew that 1, Apple Intelligence would not be rolling out anywhere right away, and 2, Apple Intelligence would not be localized for China until maybe later in 2024, probably sometime in 2025. 2 weeks later, a week before Apple even announced iPhone 16 and 2 weeks before it went on sale, another piece from the site sailed in under the headline, iPhone 16's lack of Apple Intelligence in China leaves market open to rivals like Huawei. And now comes the clothesline. The wrestling or football kind. South China Morning Post ran a piece last Tuesday, the 17th of September, under the headline, Apple's iPhone 16 already selling at a discount in China as AI delay cools demand. This was supported by the subheader, e-commerce platforms are offering price cuts of up to 11% on Apple's latest smartphones as Huawei steals the market buzz. The piece had one of China's largest online sellers offering the consumer models iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus at discounts of 10% to 11% off. Meanwhile, 2 sites were said to be offering a discount of 4% on the entry-level iPhone 16 Pro Max. According to the site, the discounts suggest soft demand for Apple's latest flagship handsets in China, a major market for the world's most valuable company and one of the world's most competitive. Could be demand is soft. Of course, here's a crazy idea. Could be that the sites are trying to entice buyers to come to their site rather than their competitors with, lower prices. I'm not saying this story is incorrect. I will say, having watched them build it for literally a month, it's tough to take it at face value. If you've got a device from the iPhone 16 line, congratulations, you have the most reparable iPhone Apple has made yet, according to the self-repair peeps at iFixit. Apple Insider had the firm pointing out 3 notable changes for the better. Hard cell batteries instead of soft pouch batteries won't get accidentally punctured by a slip of a screwdriver, so they're way less likely to catch fire. The adhesive securing the battery is much easier to deal with, and it's easier to access phones in the line through either the front or back to make repairs. Apple actually added that to the consumer end of the line, starting with the iPhone 14, though that accessibility has now made it to the Pro end as well. Lots more to learn in the teardown on iFixit site, online at iFixit.com. The big payoff, of course, Apple Insider says the repair site gave the iPhone 16 line a repairability score of 7 out of 10, a significant jump from the 4 out of 10 for last year's iPhone 15. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, 1Password Extended Access Management. Do your work peeps always, and I mean always, without exception, every single time, do they always work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? If you said yes, how can you know that for sure? And if you said no, what are you doing to protect your business? Yes or no, your company's data could be sitting on unknown and unmanaged apps and devices. Get a clearer look and a firmer handle with 1Password Extended Access Management. It puts unmanaged devices, unknown applications, and rogue IDs that your employees might be using under your control, making sure every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional identity and access management and mobile device management miss. It's security for the way people work today. It's available now to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/macOSKen. That is the number 1, onepassword.com/macOSKen. I told you last Tuesday that none of Apple's OS updates seemed to be causing any problems. That was true Monday night, and into early Tuesday morning. That said, some M4 iPad Pro users have seen some problems since. It was midday Tuesday on the West Coast, late afternoon back east, when Mac rumors had Apple pulling the version of iPadOS 18 for the latest iPad Pro models due to a bit of bricking. The piece cited reports on Reddit from iPad Pro users who had an interruption in the installation process, leading to an iPad that refused to turn on. A total replacement was required for affected users. Didn't happen to everyone, though the issue was big enough that Apple had to pull that version of the operating system, and it's still gonzo. On Friday, Mac Rumors ran another piece that had Apple acknowledging the bricking issue in a memo to Apple-authorized service providers. That memo had Apple working to resolve the issue, with no word on when a fix might be in. I told you last week of new features for tvOS 18, including new screensaver options. It turns out not quite. While tvOS did get some new features, a post last week from Apple said that others, such as 21:9 support for playing movies and shows on projectors, support for robot vacuum cleaners in the Home app, and the new screensavers, won't be out until sometime this fall. The apps that used to make up the iWork suite got updates last week. Another piece from Mac Rumors says Pages, Numbers, and Keynote got updates for iPhone and iPad, and, in Keynote's case, for Apple Watch. That one lets presenters advance slides hands-free with the double-tap gesture on supported Apple Watch models, provided they're running watchOS 11. The rest of the features were all the same for all three apps for iPhone and iPad, allowing users to squeeze Apple Pencil Pro to quickly switch tools, line weights, and colors, use the new document browser to easily create a new document or find a recent one if they're running iOS 18 or iPadOS 18, and additional bug fixes and performance improvements. Keynote for the Mac also got a couple of new features. Less love for Pages and Numbers for Mac, which just got performance improvements and bug fixes. And finally today, by the time you get this, Apple may be on its 5th round of developer betas for the next OS updates. While I was still really sick, though, I know I still sound like it, but I feel great. Anyway, while I was really sick, though, a piece from Apple Insider says Apple released the 4th developer betas of iOS and iPadOS 18.1, along with macOS 15.1 Sequoia. They were accompanied by new developer betas of watchOS 11.1, tvOS 18.1, and visionOS 2.1. Those first 3 will see Apple continuing work on Apple Intelligence, the first signs of which are due out to the masses sometime next month. If you want early access, though, guess what? Members of Apple's public testing program can start playing with Apple Intelligence now. Actually, they got to start playing a few days ago. 9to5Mac ran a piece Thursday announcing the first public beta of iOS 18.1, and yes, it's got AI features. The piece says testers can test such anticipated Apple Intelligence offerings as AI notification summaries, AI tools for proofreading and writing, the new Smarter, SIRI, the cleanup tool in Photos, web page summaries in Safari, and others. Now, a lot of people will be waiting for such features as ChatGPT integration, Genmoji, and Image Playground. And they get to keep waiting. Those aren't expected until iOS 18.2 or later. Still, if you've got an iPhone 15 Pro or newer and want to try out what is available, more info can be found at beta.apple.com. By the way, you really shouldn't test betas on a primary or mission-critical device. I'm sure that's going to keep you from trying it. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management. Learn more at onepassword.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.